Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavate Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha. Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Devak Govindaya Namo Namaha. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, text number 20, chapter 20 and text number 17. So Novisto Bhagavata Yashete Shalilasaye Loka Samstham Yatha Purvam Nirmame Samsthaya Swaya. So Novista Bhagavata Yashete Shalilashaye Loka Samstham Yata Purvam Nirmame Samstaya Swaya. Translation. When that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is lying on the Garbhodaka ocean, entered the heart of Brahma, Brahma brought his intelligence to bear, and with the intelligence invoked, he began to create the universe as it was before. Purport. At a certain time, the personality of Godhead, Karanodakashai Vishnu, lies in the Karana ocean and produces many thousands of universes from his breathing. Then he enters again into each and every universe as Garbhodakashai Vishnu and fills up half of each universe with his own perspiration. The other half of the universe remains vacant, and that vacant region is called outer space. I just want to read this again. At a certain time, the personality of Godhead Karanodakashai Vishnu lies in the Karana ocean and produces many thousands of universes from his breathing. Then he enters again into each and every universe as Garbhodakashai Vishnu and fills up half of each universe with his own perspiration. The other half of the universe remains vacant, and that vacant region is called the outer space. Then the lotus flower sprouts from his abdomen and produces the first living creature, Brahma. Then again, as Kshirodakashai Vishnu, the Lord enters into the heart of every living entity, including Brahma. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter. Lord says, I am seated in everyone's heart, and by me are remembrance and forgetfulness made possible. As the witness of the activities of the activities of individual entities, the Lord gives each one remembrance and intelligence to act according to his desire at the time he was annihilated in his last birth in the last millennium. This intelligence is invoked according to one's own capacity or by the law of karma. This is very interesting. I'm going to read this sentence again. As the witness of the activities of the individual living entities, the Lord gives each one remembrance and intelligence to act according to his desire. At the time, he was annihilated in his last birth in the last millennium. This intelligence is invoked according to one's own capacity or by the law of karma. Brahma was the first living entity and he was empowered by the Supreme Lord to act in charge of a mode of passion. Therefore, he was given the required intelligence, which is so powerful and extensive that he almost independent of control of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just as a highly posted manager is almost as independent as the owner of a firm. Brahma is described here as independent because, as the Lord's representative to control the universe, he is almost as powerful and independent as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord, as the super soul within the Brahma, gave him the intelligence to create. Therefore, the creative power of every living entity is not his own. It is by the grace of the Lord that one can create. There are many scientists and great workers in the material world who have wonderful creative force, but they act and create only according to the direction of a Supreme Lord. A scientist may create many wonderful inventions by the direction of the Lord, but it is not possible for him to overcome the stringent laws of material nature by his intelligence, nor it is possible to acquire such intelligence from the Lord, for the Lord's supremacy would then be hampered. It is stated in this verse that Brahma created the universe as it was before. This means that he created everything by the same name and form as in the previous cosmic manifestation. Om Gnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakatahamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarobhischa Kripa Sindhibhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girip Yatkrupatamahamam Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Pramanandavadam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Gnananandamayan Devam Nirmalam Sprikakrutim Adharam Sarvavidyanam Hayagrivam Vasmaye. Thank you for this opportunity to discuss, read and discuss the Srimad Bhagavatam, the chapter 17. As we know, this is the discussion between Maitreya and Vidura. There are questions asked, answers, question and answers, question and answers. The whole Srimad Bhagavatam is a question and answers. And now he is described here that the process of creation, actually, what is this process of creation? There is how this happens. Hmm? It's very clear that what was the purpose that Brahma was created, first of all. The whole the millions of universes created, why Brahma was created. And then it's all because it's not that Krishna wants to do that, it is because of our desire. We had a desire to be enjoying independent of the Lord, and Lord has given this facility. Okay, so you want to enjoy on your own. That means think about how many living entities we are rebellious, want to come out of the nature. The nature is, our nature was so strong to come out, and we came out. And Krishna has to facilitate creating many things like this, many varieties of we have a varieties of desire, and Krishna has to create all these universes with each universe, millions of universes. Very nice to describe that. Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, just by breathing, Karanadakashaya Vishnu, lying in the Karana ocean, produces many thousands of universes just by his breathing. And then he enters into each and every universe as Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, where very clear that is filled with water of this with his own perspiration, and half the other empty, half is filled and half is empty. And that empty is nothing but the outer space. And after that, it's we have read many times. And then the lotus flower sprouts his abdomen from the Garbhodakasha Vishnu, and the first creature Brahma, right? Brahma is created, and then from the Kshirodakasha Vishnu, Lord enters into heart of every living entity, including Brahma. So that's why it is said that Krishna is seated in everyone's heart as a super soul, right? So I just will go to few things, the series of verses, and very interesting. I will read this. I just found this, and I want to read this. Then we'll discuss few things. First of all, Brahma created from his shadow the coverings of ignorance of the conditioned souls. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam 3:20-18. So what he did, Brahma creates, and he is created, and Brahma has 30 days. He also lives he also lives 100 years, and he has his own day. One day of Brahma is one kalpa. Currently, we are we are in the Shvetavaraha kalpa, which is, if you look at it, if you look at in our Sankalpa, we normally say we are in Bhumandale, Jambudvipe, Bharatavarshe, Bharatakande, Shvetavaraha kalpe, then Kali Yuge, and we also say where we are, so all the places. That's what the Sankalpa is. Now, Brahma is in the 50, I think is in 51st year. Out of 100 years, it's like 50 years or 50 and a half. Is it 50 or 51? I think it's 50. And first half is done, and then second half of this day is going on right now. This Shvetavaraha Kalpa, second half of the day is proceeding. And during this day, he has to do so many things. And he is also getting the same object, creating the same objects as before. And the names also same as before from the previous kalpa. He remembers, he has that intelligence given to him to remember what happened to the previous day. I was thinking when I read this, at this hour, yesterday, what did I do? No idea. Yeah, morning we have done this morning activities, but exactly at this hour, at this minute, what did I really do? We don't know. We tend to forget. Brahma is intelligence, and his He can remember everything. He has given intelligence, and he has remembered what he has created in his previous day, previous kalpa, and it names the same, creates the same as in the previous kalpa, and names the same as the purport says. And it says, first of all, Brahma created from his shadow the coverings of the universe of the conditioned souls. They are five in number and are called Tamishra, Anda Tamishra, Tamas, Moha, and Mahamoha. There, there are so many things he creates, right? The coverings of the ignorance. And he also creates another one, says, Brahma first created the nascent engagements like self-deception, the sense of death, anger after frustration, the sense of false ownership, and the illusory bodily conception, or the forgetfulness of one's real identity. This is really interesting to understand what it is, right? From our scriptures, that the conditions we have heard many times that the conditioned living entities are struggling for existence in this material world due to their revolt against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is believed that we have wanted to enjoy separately from the Lord, since there is only one Purusha, Supreme Enjoyer, in the whole creation. We cannot be factually the enjoyers, and especially in the spiritual world. Just like a loving mother creates a dummy kitchen for her child to play, the Lord created this material world for the revolting souls to enjoy. In order to enjoy in this material world, we must forget our real identity. This is, so we need to understand that in order to be enjoying in this material world, in this temporary world, we must forget our real identity. You see here, and our real identity is what we are. Jiveras, Jivera Swarupa Krishnera Nityadas. So we forget our real identity when we come to this material world, temporary world. Very interesting, right? And it is living and it is constitutional position to be an eternal servant of the Lord of Krishna, because he is a marginal energy of Krishna and a manifestation simultaneously, one with and different from the Lord, like a molecular particle of sunshine or fire. Krishna has three varieties of energies. Therefore, Brahma first entrusted with task to create conditions under which a living being in the material world has to live. Unless a living entity forgets his real identity, it is impossible for him to live in the material conditions of life. I when I read this, I said, let me read this again and again, so that it'll come and I register it in my mind, right? So Brahma first entrusted with task to create conditions under which a living being in this material world has to live. Yes, we are all supposed to live here, but unless a living entity forgets his real identity, it is impossible for him to live in the material conditions of life. Therefore, the first condition of the material existence is forgetfulness of one's real identity. This is called tamas. The condition of not knowing anything about the spiritual soul is called tamas. This material world is also generally called tamas because 99% of its living entities are ignorant of their identity as soul. I'm actually reading what all these five coverings of conditioned soul, which is tamas, tamishra, and the tamishra, tamas, basically moha, moha. Okay, so I just read tamas. I'm going to moha now. Once we forget our spiritual identity, we develop illusory bodily concept of life. Guided by this concept misconception, we start to think in terms of I and mine. We start thinking in terms of a body, of my body, my wife, my children, my property, my country, my society, my relatives, etc. This is called moha. So tamas is done. Now we are we forgot we cannot live in this material world without forgetting the real entity. So that is tamas. Now moha comes when we forget our real identity, we develop the illusory bodily concept of life, that it is me and mine, I, my country, my society. So this is called moha. Next comes the mahamoha. Gradually, this attachment to bodily platform extends to things and objects of this world due to false identification. The conditioned souls becomes entrapped by the sense of false ownership of the property of the Supreme Lord, thereby violating the Ishavashyam Idam Sarvam principle. We develop possessiveness of enjoyable objects. We become mad after material enjoyment and burn with the intense greed to acquire more and more to point out exploiting nature, people, and resources. This is called Mahamoha. See how we are developing the once we get out of this, we are out from the material spiritual world. We are slowly getting me and mine, and now we are completely forgetting that it is not me because of the false ego, false identification. We start exploiting, that means the lording over the material nature. First is me, right down now when it is me, that is why the anger comes also. Where is this anger coming? Anger, um, if you understand God, right? We want to become God. So that's why we are here. And then God is already existing. Somebody has taken that post. Now we are trying to take that post, which is not possible. That is why we are angry, right? So I want to become God, but the post is already filled up. There is no substitute or a duplicate post here. I want to become God, but I am not. So how many living entities are all thinking about to become God? They will, which the post is already filled, but that is why we are anger. So Brahma creates, the first thing he creates is anger. Now, because of this Mahamoha, everything comes into existence of our life here. So when the conditioned soul is not able to attain the objects of this material desire, intense frustration and anger develops in him. This is exactly what I spoke. So what happens is, when the material desire is not fulfilled, the intense frustration starts. That this Bhagwan, that but God is been post is filled. My God, what should I do? No, there's no my God, it's me. So this condition called Thamishra. The forgetfulness of this constitutional position is due to anger or envy. There is one more last. So the living entity, being eternally a part and parcel servitor of Supreme Lord, can never by constitution be an equal enjoyer with the Lord. When he forgets this, however, and tries to be one with him, his condition is called Tamishra. Even in the field of spiritual realization, this Tamishra mentality of that living entity is hard to overcome. In trying to get out of the entanglement of material life, there are many who want to be one with the Supreme, even in their transcendental activities. This lower grade mentality of Tamishra continues. Now comes the last one, which is called Andha Tamishra. Finally, one reaches the ultimate condition of fear of death. When the conditioned soul realizes that his lifetime is not enough to enjoy everything, and he still have material desires to fulfill, he wants to live longer to fulfill his desires. This naturally leads to a sense of fear of death. This condition is called Andatamishra. So the paragraph from Prabhupada's purport of 3:20:18, he says, that's the next verse. He says that the atheists generally think that the body is the self and that everything is therefore ended with the end of the body. Thus, they want to enjoy material life as far as possible during the existence of the body. This atheistic conception of life is killing human civilization, for it is without knowledge of the continuation of eternal life. Such a beautiful article, and I thought maybe, read this, where we came from and what we develop once we come into this material existence. And we are completely, we were anger, we are not able to fulfill our desire. I want to still become God, and there is no time left. And now I am fear of death that I could not fulfill my desire. So this is all the process of creation and what happens, and is very much linked to Chaturvyuha. In the Chaturvyuha, what is the first one? Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. Vasudeva, if Krishna is always in Vrindavan, is in his own, is Bhavarupa. He never leaves Vrindavan. Is Bhavarupa. Is in Krishna, is in Vrindavan. The moment he leaves Vrindavan, he is called Vasudeva. And now we were actually in the consciousness of Vasudeva, that we were eternal servants of Krishna. And that means we were completely Krishna conscious. And that time we were, um, you know, we were under the, we were actually servants of Krishna. That means we had that real identity. We knew that we were servants of Krishna. And the next one, Vasudeva Sankarshana, right? And that's the Mahavishnu, which he creates everything. That which is in actually the deep state. There are three stages. One is Jagrata, what is that? Swapna, and then Sushupti. So what happens is when we are in sleeping state, one is it's like three. In English, we can think about awakened state. That means we are awake. One is deep sleep, and then another one is swapna, which is we are dreaming state. And then another one is I think I forgot that name, which is in transcendental stage, which is where in transcendental position. Sorry, consciousness. So when if you look at Vasudeva, Pradyumna is for the rajas, where Brahma creates and everything, and it's like in a dreaming state. What happens is we always think about the past, and also and plan for the future. Oh, what happened earlier and what's going to happen, and think about the future, right? So this is kind of happening in the stage of Pradyumna. Pradyumna is completely rajas, right? Vasudeva is the, we know Vasudeva stage, we know Sankarshana stage, which is Sankarshana is in deep sleep. Now we are coming to the Swapna stage. Swapna stage is nothing but the Pradyumna stage, Pradyumna, where the Chaturvaha, he has to expand in such a way that he can facilitate all of us to become dreaming. Even though we are awake, we are completely dreaming, which will never happen. Hmm? We cannot fulfill our desires, but it's always in a dreaming state. And then comes the Anuruddha stage, where the Kshirodaksha Vishnu, that means the gross body is given to us, and we are awake. Basically, we are awake now. Gross body is given, and we want to trying to enjoy, and so-called enjoyment never happens. And then we are awake, but then we will get into, oh, this is not going to happen in my life. By the mercy of Guru and Krishna, somehow, then we will really Jiva Jago, Gaura Chandra Bole. That stage will come, and then we will awake, we'll be completely awake. and then we'll go back to that Krishna conscious stage in case to understand that, oh, become, that means come to your realization, self-realization. What is the self-realization? I am not the body, I am the spirit soul. And only the self-realization happens. That doesn't mean that we are already going back to Krishna. At least we are realizing that we are not this body. See, this cycles goes on and on and on and on during the during our lifetime and during his Brahma's lifetime, creating tirelessly, is doing kalpa after kalpa after kalpa. Very interesting, right? How he does. Krishna gives him intelligence, and he has given us the intelligence, but that intelligence is nowhere. I cannot remember what I am doing even 1 hour ago. What did I do? I forgot. I'll forget. But Brahma is very intelligent. He can remember also, not just intelligence. He can remember things. This is how it works. I think anyway. This was an interesting verse. I thought maybe read, understand. Thank you so much for your time. Hare Krishna. Any comments? Otherwise, we can close this call. Hare Krishna. All right. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Pancha kalpatarbyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo ananta koti vaishnavika jai.